Guys, welcome back to another episode of Chalk Talk. And today I'm honored to have a legend with me. Uh, y'all may know him as heard of him as Omaha John, but John Shupit. Is it? I pronounce it right?
Yeah, perfect.
All right, man. Thanks for joining me. Um, heard some stories, and just telling you a while ago, I heard a story that wasn't true. So
Yeah.
that guy is he is on my list to interview, but maybe not so much now, unless I just want people to hear a bunch of fibs. Um, so before we jump into how you got started playing pool, kind of you started to tell me like what was your life growing up as a kid?
It was a pretty good childhood all the way through junior high. My mom died, I think, when I was 12, and my grandmother moved in with us, and she was a peach of a lady, let you get away with murder. So my mom would have probably nixed any pool, but about that time, I started playing a little pool now and then, and kind of fell in love with it, and just kind of went to places where I could just play pool.
Right. So when did you realize that? You weren't just good at it, but you were actually good enough to make a living at it.
Well, I wasn't even thinking about living. I just wanted to play. So playing around Omaha, I kind of couldn't get much action after I was about 15 or 16. So then I started flying to California just because I read a book or something and heard there was action in San Francisco. Now we're talking in the 30s and 40s probably. But so I went there. You could fly there for $50 one way, carry your pool stick on the plane. Uh, I got to San Francisco and I went to the Palace. The Palace, I think, was the name of it, but there was really no action. So I took a bus down to Long Beach, and that's where I stayed off and on for probably 5 or 6 years.
So tournament or just tournaments or road play? Just
No, there's really no tournaments unless they were real big ones. And there was like a straight pool tournament in LA in I think 1971. But it was all gambling. There were 3 pool rooms in Long Beach, and then there was a place that was open all night up the road in a place called Signal Hill, beautiful billiards. And then a little while after that, there was Vern Peterson's Billiard Palace in, I think it was Lakewood or Bellflower. And that was more, and I've heard Keith talk about it. He was around then. There was more action there than I ever saw, ever playing pool. I mean, not the big action like Detroit, but pool action constant for maybe 3 or 4 years.
okay.
So that's where you'd be in there for 2 or 3 days at a pop, playing pool.
So a bar table was your expertise, right?
Well, later on, after I played in my youth in the pool rooms because I couldn't get in the bars. So I grew up in pool rooms. That's where I played pretty good big table. Funny story about Vern Peterson's Billiard Palace, if this is a good one. I drove out one time with a guy from Omaha, and we drove straight through. We get to the Billiard Palace. The place is packed, and I'm sitting down looking over the landscape. He comes running over. He says, "I got a game with some old man." So I look up. He's over there. He's playing Luther Lassiter straight pool.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So needless to say, he went broke. So that was some old
You
man
didn't you,
straight pool.
and you didn't get in on that?
No, I said, I'm out. I'm out. I said, that's Luther Lassiter. Nah, he got lucky the first game. I'm going to play him another one. Those were his words.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
didn't last long out there.
So, but later on, bar tables kind of become your world, huh? So, what separated a true bar box player from everyone else?
No, I just, just accustomed to it. I mean, it'd be battles for a considerable length of time sometimes. Um, and then, if you were top-notch bar table player, you could just blitz people fast. You can beat them so quick that, and a lot of times they just chase the money because it was just hit them that quick.
Right. So, did you ever feel fear at the table, or was it something else?
Fear?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Did you ever feel? I mean, did you ever feel a lot of pressure at the bar table?
Honestly, I do now because I'm not used to it. I can't believe how nervous I get when I play now. But you get used to it. I mean, it doesn't bother you. You get a little nervous in the beginning of a match or something, but
right.
I was on the road all the time. I was afraid to get out of stroke because I knew, you're looking for action all the time. And then when that opportunity comes up, you've got to be ready. Because it could be a huge score you're passing up if you're drinking or high on drugs or something like that. So I was always in stroke. Wouldn't want to stay home too long because there's no action in Omaha, and for me. So I was, you get used to it. You're comfortable with it.
So was there a town or room where you always seemed that you played your best?
Well, I played good in Las Vegas because the tables were always dry, no humidity, so you had more opportunity to do things on a pool table when you've got a dry table than you do with a wet one. But yeah, I played good in Vegas. I made pretty good scores in Vegas. Bar table.
Did you prefer the big cue ball or little cue ball?
Mostly with the big ball because that's what was on them. Right. People accuse me of carrying my own big ball and shit like that, but you didn't have to because it was mostly big balls. But then after probably in the early 80s, they started to substitute it with that mud ball. And that
right.
was just, it was a dead ball. You really just couldn't maneuver it too good. It was just dead.
Yeah, there wasn't no draw on that ball, for sure.
Yeah, it was just a weird.
People always told me that the softer the tip that you used, it would grab it better, but you're still not going to draw the ball back 2 or 3 inches. That's it. So what was the toughest match you ever played?
I think about that. One of the tougher ones, Herman Bullard. You heard of him?
Mm-hmm.
I played him in Danny Dysert's place there, and
City.
Yeah, and I never made a ball in the break. He had to be the greatest racker. I bet we played 20 some hours. I know it was a long match, and he played good, played great. But when you're not making balls on the break on a bar table, it's tough.
So there's a question here. It says, when the money got big and the room went quiet, what generally was going through your mind?
Totally focused. All I saw was make the ball, put the cue ball here, make the ball, put it over there. That's all I heard. I honestly think I could kind of put myself in a trance to where none of that, and you get used to it. Players get used to the pressure, and these guys play. I don't know about the Moscone Cup. Those guys look like they're a little unnerved, but you're playing in bars where people are screaming at you and threatening you, and
yeah,
it's
jukebox playing loud.
You got to put it out of your head.
Right. So when you were at a place, and was there anybody that you didn't want to see walk in the door?
Well, I wouldn't mind them walking in the door unless they had a gun or something. That was my biggest fear. But so somebody walks in the door, I'll match up with them. I don't have to play them even. If they want to play. So, but I made most of my money giving up a ton of weight to people. I made some big scores giving up a lot of weight.
How many road partners do you think you had over the years?
Oh, just a few. One was Surfer Rod Curry.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little older than me. He's probably Buddy's. Well, he's probably older than Buddy. But anyway, Rodney was a very creative guy. You were always in action. We'd go into bars. We'd always get played. Proposition bets, and if there wasn't any big gamblers there, he'd figure out how to make money. And you remember back when we played, a lot of bars had this thing that looked like on the rail, looked like a ruler, and there were little notches where people would put their quarters.
Right.
Right. So there's a lot of times we'd just be, trying to make the nut and try to find action and waiting for them to call the player to come in to play. So you'd put your quarter up and, you'd have to keep the table or else you might have to wait 10 games to play your next game. So you'd have to win all the games. And then if one guy was going to play for $5 or $10, then the next person, well, the bet was 10, so we're playing for 10. And a lot of times they'd either pull their quarter down because they didn't want to do it, or they would, play for the $10.
Right. Right.
So
whatever. Was there one state that had the best action for you?
Well, I think Oklahoma.
So this was back in what, the 80s and 90s?
No, mid 70s to I played from 75, and then I had to quit in 1985.
Okay.
Because of my neck. So
right. So what happened there?
I just can't stay still when I played right-handed. So my head would turn. I couldn't aim. It was gradual. So I played that way for probably a year. But then eventually it just got, it was over. So I started selling insurance. So I did that for the last 40 years.
So that's not a bad gig.
Well, it's work, and I didn't enjoy it quite as much as pool. I still love pool. So I quit in 1985.
Right.
Didn't pick up a cue for 25 years, and then I got the bug and started playing left-handed. And that's tough because you can't play all the time, and you're just playing occasionally, and it's pretty challenging and frustrating, but I still do it,
So is it a nerve, or I mean, what?
I wish I knew. I think it's a disc. The MRI that I had done back then was there's a disc that's out of line, and for some reason, chiropractors, and I've been to therapy, all kinds of stuff. So nothing works.
I was wondering if it's kind of the same thing that I don't know if it was, but the same thing with Michael Coltrane. He
I kind of heard.
He was back in the early 90s. He was in all kinds of action and tournaments, and said to probably be at that time probably one of the best money players in the country. And then all of a sudden he had started developing this shake and stuff, and he had to quit. I interviewed him a year and a half ago. It's a pretty good interview. You get time to watch it.
I'll try to pull it up.
Winning the Light Beer World Series of Tavern Pool. What do you remember most about that?
Well, again, you're kind of in a trance, but I think they were races to 3, 2 out of 3 sets. And I remember playing David Howard, and I think he just got came in from smoking a left-handed cigarette. His eyes were bloodshot, and I thought, what's he thinking? And then Alan Hopkins, I played him, and then I can't remember the rest of them. And then in the final, well, I played Jerry Bungstetter. I knew him from Long Beach. He was a good player from Long Beach. And I played him I think it was the semifinal. And then I played Ernesto Dominguez in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I won the first and third set, and he won the second.
It's pretty tough field. So you talked about the neck issue. When did you first realize that something wasn't right?
Probably in around early 1984. And it's just it started out kind of a subtle twitch, and I could pull my head back on the backstroke. I'd bring it back to the target and shoot, and I could play that way. But it was still a hindrance, but then it just gradually got worse to where at the end, it's like now I can't make a ball sometimes.
How hard was it to walk away from a life that defined you?
Well, it was tough, but I think I was kind of ready because I had a wife and child, and I was gone all the time, and I really wasn't making that much money. So I just didn't know what I was going to do. But it's in your blood. I mean, I missed it the whole time. I thought about it a lot, but I was pretty distracted with work and family. So I had a little time in about 2012, 2010, somewhere in there, to where I could start coming back and play pool left-handed. So I got it a little bit out of my system doing that.
Yeah. So how hard was it for you to walk? Oh, I already asked you that one. When the action stops, what do you miss the most, and what do you not miss at all?
I missed looking for the action, going around looking. You spend 90% of your time trying to find a meaningful game, and 10% of the time we're playing. And that it's so much different than now. I mean, these guys are in action in tournament every weekend. There might have been 2 or 3 tournaments, big tournaments a year back then, and rarely was there a bar table tournament. I mean, now there's one every weekend. So what I did, I can tell you some of the stories that happened to me, with pool. Now I remember Jim McDermott talked about me getting robbed. Well, that was in McAlester, Oklahoma. That's where the state prison is, I think. So,
yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah. So that thing there, I beat the bartender out of maybe 300, and then he said, "Do you want to play a set for 500?" So we put the money up, and as I'm going to win the match, in the meantime, the guy I'm with says, "These guys telling us we ain't getting out with the money. We're in a trap." I said, "Well, we got to finish. What are we going to do? We're not going to run out the door and leave the money. It might be sharking you, But sure enough, as soon as I shot in the last 8-ball, gunshot went off. And he took up in the air. He took off with the money, the up money, the bartender, because they brought another guy in. So, but those guys weren't bad. They didn't touch us or anything. They just said, if you don't like it, do something about it or leave. So we left. It was a long walk to the car, not knowing,
Right.
bad things can happen. They could have took our money. So then we went over to Oklahoma City, and Chester Truelove steered me up to, I think it's Longdale, Oklahoma.
Okay.
There's a guy named Bill Dugan.
Heard
There's a
the name.
steak horse.
Okay.
I don't know if you know that name.
I've heard the name.
Okay. Well, anyway, we went up there, and I'm playing him, giving him like the 6-8 and a break. And the first place we played him was in this kind of a kid's joint with pinball machines and one bar table, old cloth. He'd break the balls, and the balls would be flying around like a pinball machine. So I said, well, I blew that set and said, I'll play you somewhere else. So I started playing him. I got him stuck pretty good. And then he called, I think he called Denny Searcy first. I said, but I need the call 8. I can't play him even. So I beat him. And then he called Matlock. Same thing. Got the call 8. So we won a lot of money there. This guy was something else, Bill Dubin. He'd keep trying to adjust the game, and he'd say, John, what's the matter? Is your sack full? What's the matter, John? Is your sack? I said, Bill, I ain't going to play him even. I got them stuck. I learned a long time ago, you don't just keep adjusting, letting the guy who's stuck adjust. You got them stuck, let them chase the money. So from there, we went to LA. I played Keith. He gave me, I think it was a 7-ball. We played a long sets. And I've played Keith several times. But this time I'm getting the 7-ball, and I think we won. We won pretty good there. And then we went to a tournament in Vegas, and then here's Bill Dugan again. So I'm giving him that 6-8 and a break. We're playing for $600 a game. And he's finally out of money, and he's calling these people back in Oklahoma to call the casino to give him some more money to gamble, but they'd only give him chips. And he's drunk, and he's on the pay phone. I don't want no chips. I want cash.
Only good at the table.
Yeah, that was a good trip.
So did you ever run into a guy they called the Driller at Chester's? Gary Drennan?
I don't think so. The only two guys I played at True Loves was Buddy and Pittsburgh Mike.
No Norman Hitchcock.
And that would have been probably 76 or 77.
No James Walden, huh?
No,
that had been a little. That was been a little before James started playing.
Yeah.
So, if they were somebody used to approach you and say, "Hey, John, we want to do a movie about your life," who would you want to play as you?
A known actor? I wouldn't.
It really wouldn't have to be a known actor. It could be a pool player that, like I asked Mike Siegel this the other day, and he said, Adam Sandler. Yeah.
I can't see that.
I don't see that. No.
Let me think. No. I'll think of somebody.
So, what's your favorite road story?
Favorite road story?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've got some memorable moments. Here's a good one. My friend Surfer Rod Curry, he's playing Steve, the Cookie Monster, Steve Cook, in Tampa, and he'd been playing him for a day or two, and he flew me down. I was going to try to play Steve 9-ball if Rod couldn't get there. So anyway, here's Rod. He's on his case game, $500 a game, full rack, one pocket, on a bar box with a big ball. And Rodney's finally got a shot. He's got like a straight, the rack's put together kind of. There's one ball out, and it's like a straight pool break where you're cutting the ball back and the cue ball's going into the stack and breaking the balls open, playing straight pool.
Right.
He misses the cut. And I can see as clear as day that corner ball went cross corner into the corner pot, his hole. He comes back and wins he was stuck like 7,000. He comes back and gets even.
Wow.
And I mean, you know, that momentum shift.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was pretty strong. I don't know if that was, and when I was on the road, it was really no deception. I wasn't deceiving people. I just go in and play as good as I could. If they stuck it out, you know, if they keep peeling off the money, you know, that's fine with me. But not too much deception or anything like that. I wouldn't give them my real name, but you know, I can tell you a real good story. There's a lot of mental stuff in pool.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple of things that are firmly embedded in my head that I remember. And there's more than one of these, but I'm playing somebody, I'm winning. Somebody comes in and says, "You can't win. You're not supposed to win." And now this stuff happened when I was younger. Sure enough, guess what happened? Couldn't make a ball. Just on that thought. And maybe somebody's not telling it to you. Maybe you tell it to yourself that you can't win, and guess what? You won't.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's so powerful, the brain. And my
Right.
favorite story in pool is along that same line, is in Omaha. And I'm not playing pool, but I walked in the pool room, and this friend of mine, his name's Bucky Carroll. He's in Big John's in Omaha. He's playing this guy that new to Omaha is getting staked by a local guy. They're playing 10 ahead for 500. And we're watching for a little bit, and Bucky's very nervous. You can tell he's scared shitless. And he's like 5 or 6 games down. And so I go over to the stake horse and I said, "Well, give me 50 a game on Buck. I can lose 4 or 5 games, but I can win 15. I mean, that's the play, right?" So
Right.
a little while later, I go down to the rail, and Bucky walks over and says, "Omaha, this guy's from Detroit. Who is he?" I said, "Detroit? He's from Podunk, Iowa. You're supposed to rob him." Boom. You never seen, there's witnesses here in Omaha today that'll tell you it's like a light switch went off. You never seen nothing like. Bucky started doing stuff he couldn't believe because he thought he could win.
Well,
It's just amazing.
well,
Yeah. That's why these great
yeah.
players win. They know they can win. It's in their head. It's all mental.
So do you believe that you play the table, not the player?
Oh, absolutely. Keep them in their chair.
Yep. They can't beat you sitting down, can they?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So I got the light glare. If you're standing in a pool room today talking to a young player who wants to be a road guy, what would you tell him, honestly?
Well, if he wants to be, depends on where he's at in his game. But with a lot of young guys, the thing that I noticed, and I went through this with CJ Wiley, we were on the road together, and he's playing fantastic, but he ain't getting the money. You know, you get them stuck, they come back, get even, and then they fold. "No, I've had enough. I'm happy." You know, it's learning. You got to learn how to put the foot on the guy's neck, take it off. You got to get out with the money. You win a set and you uncork, and the guy says, "Flip it." You know, for a young guy, they think, "Oh God, I got to go again." You know, and he just exhausted himself on the first set. So that was one of the biggest things that I think I learned, and I saw with CJ and probably a couple other younger guys that I might have been with or just noticed, to where you just have to learn how to finish. That's the toughest part. You know, getting good, making balls, and doing all that stuff. Okay, that's the first stage. The second stage is learning how to finish. And nowadays, in these short races, you got to learn how to start and get ahead.
Right.
You know, in these short races.
So you hear the. Go ahead.
The best advice I ever got, and I tell these young guys, When I was a kid, there was a real good pool player. There was a rack boy at the Paxton, and he would show me this and show me that. But the best advice he gave me, he'd come up to me with, he was an ex-fighter too, and he'd have his fist here and his teeth, and he had a few teeth missing, and he'd say, "Fuck them all, Johnny. Fuck them all." Killer instinct.
That's great. So you hear the term "nit" all the time now. You know, so when somebody's gambling now, you know, and they're matched up. They play one set, and the guy that wins the one set quits and doesn't let the guy that lost give him a chance to win his money back. So, in your opinion, how many sets should somebody agree to play to not be considered a nit?
Well, you know, if they're both from the same town, you know, there's going to be another day, you know. So if the guy, you know, he might have to go pick up his kids and stuff like that. But if you're a road player and you're there one time and you win a set and you uncork, I had this happen to a kid I played from Lincoln. You know, he won the set and boom, he uncorks and flies out the door. You know, that's kind of nitty. You know, he just giggled about it. But if you're in the same town, there's going to be other opportunities. So you know, let's say you play the guy, you lose the set, and you beg to play another. Well, you win the set. Guess what he's going to do? He's going to quit. You know, but if you get him another day and you win that first set, now he might chase. You know, so yeah, he's kind of a nit. And you know, but if you're on the road and you're leaving or something, you know, that would be nitty if you won a set and wanted to leave town with the money. You know, that's a different story.
Right. All right. So told you I wouldn't keep you very long. Is there anything that you'd like to add before we go?
No.
I mean, is a place? Man, I've got all night.
Well, it's some memorable moments in my pool. As you know, this is 40 some years ago. I was in this tournament in Clinton, Iowa, and I was feeling real good. I pictured myself winning. If I'd have won that, I was going to play Buddy in the finals. So I'm playing Dallas West.
Okay.
I think I got to the table and raced a 9 3 times. He made it on the break like 3 times and had 2 or 3 combinations. It was the biggest drilling I've ever had in my life. But Dallas was a great player. I kind of admired the guy because he was probably 15 years older than me. But then the Bucky story was a good one. I mean, the mental part of pool is just astounding.
Yeah, that's the thing I struggle with is the mental side of it, and my biggest thing I think is I'm inconsistent because I don't play near as much as I used to.
Mm-hmm.
I've turned from
got to hit balls constantly under pressure.
So I turned from gambling all the time at pool to becoming more of a league player and trying to help out my teammates than anything. And
I see.
It's not the same.
Yeah, the thing, and I'm kind of socially playing pool now too, not so much in leagues anymore, but but you meet a lot of good people, different walks of life, and it's completely different than when you're out there gambling with people.
Right. It is. You think gambling and putting that pressure on yourself makes you a better player?
That's the only way to get great. People used to say, well, John, how can I get good at pool? You know, how can I get to where I can play your speed or whatever? And I said, well, the way I did it was you played to survive. You know, you played to eat. If you don't win, you don't eat.
Right.
Remember one time I was probably 17, 18, completely broke, probably hungry. And this guy came in beautiful billiards with a handful of money. And I said to myself, here's the opportunity. So we played $3 a game. I beat him out of 300. You know, just because that desire, I wanted that money, you know. And that's you learn to, you get that, whatever that is, you get that desire, that extreme desire to win by basically survival.
Right.
And the fuck 'em all strategy.
Become the hunter and not the hunted.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll have to do this again sometime.
Cool.
I know you've got a ton of stories in there. So, and I'd like to hear them all while I can. Now I'm sure these other people that are watching, I'm sure they'd love to hear them too.
Yeah, anytime.
So, all right. Well, guys, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Thanks again, John, for joining me. If y'all enjoy content like that, hit that subscribe button. I mean, there's so many people that watch the show but are not subscribed, and it doesn't cost anything to subscribe. And it helps me out, helps the channel grow, and helps me get to places to go and interview people that maybe don't have the opportunity or don't have the means to do this FaceTime stuff like we're doing now. Hit that thumbs up, leave a comment, let me know how we're doing, and I'll see y'all next time on the Pulling Around Show. Thank you, John. Hope you have a wonderful Christmas.
Thanks, Chris.
Stay in touch.
All right. I was going to ask, where are you from?
I live